Previously on Deathwatch, the Puritanicals. However, you hear a crackle over your vox as on open broadcast is Commander D. Johan. With your keen driving, Sala, you have managed to shake off two of the smart missiles, which slam into the ground right behind the Rhino, exploding. However, the third strikes home.
It is because I am not an animal.
You see Garfield falling to one knee and clutching at his neck as this strange shimmering white begins to sort of leave his vox grill. After a few brutal and vicious minutes, the once vibrant and peaceful Tau village is now a scene of blood-stained ruin and burning houses. Your keen augury array focuses in on one particular warrior who matches the hololithic image of Trail Shaper Turak.
Squad lead, I believe I have the Trail Shaper in my sights.
Permission to engage.
Distance and contingent.
There's a large number of Kroot forces around him, as there is some large four-legged creature with them. I don't recollect learning about anything like that before.
Distance?
What is the distance?
They would be about 600 meters away from you, I think.
And so you said the Tau are spread out quite wide.
Kroot.
The Kroot, sorry, is spread out. What is the distance of that width?
They're sort of keeping 3 2-meter spacing.
No. They're not. No, I mean like entirely, like from start to finish.
Oh, the Kroot are easily covering a few hundred meters of ground.
Okay, that's the problem.
There's quite a lot of them.
How many, roughly, would you say, are there?
Well, thanks to August's prayer sense, you can actually make out the individuals very clearly and get a bit more of an accurate count. And from what you're seeing, there appears to be around 100 or more Kroot.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Question. With Constantinus' guidance, can I identify where the beast is? The four-legged one?
Can you mark it on our visors?
Yeah.
You can't get a good view of the four-legged beasts at the moment. They are quite, you're just catching glimpses of them.
Okay.
And you're too far out to get a good visual on them. They look to your visor in prey sense like dogs or some form of canid.
Var, could I use lore scholastic beasts? This is a beast.
My god, yes you can.
Beasts!
You've heard of these before, August. These are Kroot hounds. The hunting dogs of the Kroot.
I believe I know what that thing is. They call it a Kroot hound. Some shared genetics, perhaps. They are weirdly like their masters, but they are used for hunting. Fast and deadly in close combat, but Barbus, I'm sure it's no threat to you.
How far away is the Trail Shaper?
About 600 meters.
I can make it. Barbus is, as usual, his goggles are wearing. He is paying attention to the HUD pings, and he notices the one who is the Trail Shaper. Which, by the way, we are all absolutely buggered if the twist of fate was to make someone else dress up like a Trail Shaper, but I digress. You'll see, like, sort of flashes of little color on his goggles as they're sort of running range finding, like little cogitations. I assume that's within their capabilities. Seems like the thing they do. And after a moment of kind of running the numbers, calculating, if you will, he approaches Squad Lead with, Squad Lead, I have a plan. I could potentially take out the Kroot Trail Shaper if the target is what it is marked as. It will require a minor amount of setup, but the shot is possible. And he'll, like, sort of go into detail about the defensive stratagem required. Maybe a strong point or two.
It's a risky plan, brother.
While I understand the risks, as is my purpose as the Squad Devastator, surely letting our target escape when our mission objective is so close at hand would be a far greater risk than attempting this shot now. I've done the numbers, Squad Lead. I will be able to lose 3 shots before he has fully reacted.
No, I understand, brother. It is a plausible plan. It's not foolproof. We may have to have some contingencies.
If you have an alternative that will guarantee his death, I am open to the suggestion.
I have no alternative, but I would add to it.
And this was Salah's going to sort of look to the group and kind of just get everyone's attention.
We'll coordinate. Garthiel and August, get as close as possible before we strike. We're going to be counting on you to make this work, Garthiel. The Trail Shaper must fall. That is our absolute priority.
He's going to look to everyone else now, look to the rest of them.
Once Barbas fires his first shot, Garthiel and August, engage immediately and eliminate the Trail Shaper if Barbas falters. Get right in there or as far as you can. Konstantinos and Dima, waste no time with the leftovers. Destroy them all as best you can. Once Barbas has fired off his 3 shots, I'll follow up immediately. He'll need me there to help him coordinate.
Aye, Squad Lead. Understood.
Sounds like a plan.
Konstantinos is going to move into position with the Dima.
Brother Barbas, I wasn't convinced you bringing a las cannon to this engagement was a fruitful idea. However, if the Emperor may guide your hand, and you make this work, you'll never find me ever consider denying you anything in requisitions again.
That is the thing, brother. The Emperor always guides my hand, as Barbas sort of crouches down behind a rock and locks into strong point position.
I hope you are right, brother.
As Salah sort of gets on his knee next to him and sort of slaps him on the back.
When you slap on the back, it's like slapping on just a brick wall. This is like hundreds upon thousands of hours of rigorous Devastator training coming into play.
Doesn't even budge. Does not even a vibration.
Not even a millimeter of movement. Nothing. He is locked in.
It's like slapping a null-point energy field.
Oh, I'm gonna see if my bubble even goes off. I've got to cast that. So Demon will try to do it. You'll see like his sort of usual soft green little bubble popping up, and then almost like hours fading, it will just go boop, 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 and just fade out.
So, as you all know, Barbas is the Devastator. This is what he does. He has locked himself into a position so rigid that not even Arctic wind would be able to blow him over now. His reticle is trained on his enemy. He's run all the calculations. It's as easy as pulling the trigger. Unlike earlier, sometimes when a marksman takes a shot, before they even pull the trigger, they just know it's going to hit its target. The last shot sails through the air and hopefully makes contact with this guy's skull, and also hopefully reduces it to not much of that anymore.
The las cannon, a beam of light emitting from it, striking down in an instant that should be impossible to react to. You've slain 1,000 targets with las cannons before, and you've never seen something react so quick and so ferociously. It's like he sensed the attack coming moments before you pulled the trigger, as this Trail Shaper dives out of the way, the shot narrowly missing him, singeing his quills and burning away some of his fetishes. And I'm going to ask you all to roll initiative. Garthiel, the Kroot have been alarmed. They are grabbing their weapons and getting to their feet. The call has been raised and battle has commenced. Garthiel, you are the first to act. What do you do?
I guess the only thing I can do is, Squad Lead, I am engaging. My jump pack will burst the light and I will sprint.
Barbas, suddenly, bursting from the trees, your las cannon blast still dissipating in the air, emerge 3 large, hulking, beaked creatures with large cannons placed upon their back. With surprising speed and dexterity, they take aim at you and open fire, targeting the source of the las cannon blast.
Good luck for them. I'm behind cover, and it's a brute.
Yeah.
With a shot echoing out from unseen positions, giving you no time to react. The 2 shots coming out of nowhere catch the entire squad completely unaware, apart from Sala, whose trained senses as a Midas Saint, his instinctive bodyguard nature taking over, allowing him to intercept 1 shot.
In that instant that the Krootoxes revealed themselves, Sala sees this infinitesimally small glimmer shimmering off of the breaking dawn, flying through the air at a near imperceptible speed. And without taking even a moment to think about what it is that's being fired at Barbas, Sala immediately stands in front of him, arms spread out wide, ready to absorb whatever impact is being fired in their direction.
The 3 slugs. So 1 slug strikes Sala in the head, partially crumpling his helmet and staggering him. The other 2 slam into the rock right in front of Barbas' chest, creating huge craters and throwing up chunks of rock.
This ain't nothing to me, man. This ain't nothing to me.
Sala, it is your turn.
In that split second or two after the shot from the Krootox makes impact with Sala's head, and it sort of slings his head back, presumably giving him some terrible whiplash, he sort of plants one of his feet backwards to cease him from moving rearward into the ground, and he whips his head forward, seeing that Barbas has just taken 2 more shots to his chest, but also seeing that Barbas is kneeling there stoically on that rock, and Sala just shouts at him, "Barbas, now is your moment, do not falter!"
So Barbas, reeling from the sun movement of the Trail Shaper upon hearing that, will reevaluate his aim, calculate the new trajectories, all in just like a fraction of a second, and simply say in response, "It will be done," as he squeezes the trigger to loose another las cannon shot at this guy. So, are you guys familiar with the Rogue Trader game?
Yeah.
Because in that game,
I bet.
there's a type of melter shot you can fire with melt weapons, where the shot kind of travels for a bit and then explodes outwards, like it's impacting something. It's that sort of thing. It's like
Like an airburst round.
Like
Yeah,
Space
like-
Marine 1.
a bit like a water drop colliding with something, how it kind of umbrellas open around the object. Now, imagine that, but it's red-hot anti-tank powered las exploding in a cone around this guy's skull, enveloping everything in front and behind of him. Sort of like the splash effect effectively carves away his skin, his muscle, his bones, and like a big chunk of his shoulders as well, as he's more or less just obliterated. There is nothing left of this guy. It's another lancing beam through the dark and a blinding explosion, like fireworks, as this guy is reduced to atoms. His little, like, neck scarves and stuff, that's like a floating rag in the wind, charred to pieces now.
And with that, the headless body of the Trail Shaper falls to the floor, and your primary objective is complete. So Tom is ill today, so I will be piloting Sala through this combat, doing his descriptions and similars. Dima.
Oh, yeah, how far away are the Krootox from me?
So the Krootox are like 700 meters away. You guys are like engaged in a real long-range duel here.
And the rocks then? How far are those from me?
The rocks, they are 300 meters from you.
Ugh.
Yeah, like I said, you're a real long-range duel here.
Dima, upon seeing Sala getting domed in the head by a Krootox gun, is just gonna leap into action and just start running forward.
August is standing right next to Sala, and August pauses for a moment, about to leap, but then realizes that something's more important than that, and he immediately kneels down and starts tending to Sala.
So Sala is still standing, but he's obviously been staggered by the heavy shot to the head he just took. So it's basically all head trauma. He's probably slightly discombobulated, but beyond that, you know, Astartes' senses being what they are, he can pretty much shrug these off, but he is, I do believe, yes, he is on the cusp of being heavily wounded.
Well, I would like to use my full turn to first aid on him. August steps up to Salah, bracing him with a hand on his pauldron, and then, with the Narthesium, jabs a couple syringes into his neck, pumping him full of a few drugs that will keep him going for the rest of this fight. As a free action, I would like to look off into the distance and roll a Scholastic Beasts on those Krootoks to see if I can learn anything about them.
Absolutely.
No, oh well.
The closest thing you see to them that you've ever seen is probably like squigs or some form of great ape. But yeah, they're a pretty wacky creature. The Kroot hounds move forward, slipping through the jagged boulders like sleek shadows in the night at such staggering speed. It's like 1,000 tiny little missiles have just been launched from the rocks towards you. They in fact go so fast that within the blink of an eye, within a mere 5 seconds, the Kroot hounds are already underneath Garthiel, swarming beneath him. Now would be the opportunity for the Kroot Shaper to act.
Now would be the time for the Kroot Shaper to do something. The camera just pans to like half a Kroot Shaper on the ground with the fly buzzing away from it.
Headless corpse squirts out a little bit of blood.
It's got some boots with ash marks around him. Just
Constantinos.
Constantinos is going to look down towards August for a second over the Vox. Brother, do you have this situation?
August kind of pokes his head up.
Which one?
Just looking at the very injured Salah.
He glances back at Salah, gives a nod.
And with unprecedented speed that you would expect from Constantinos, he is going to run following Dima as fast as he can.
The hordes of Kroot now activate. So there are 3 hordes of Kroot here. The one in the rock, the 2 in the overlook. The Kroot in the rocks move out into a skirmisher-like formation, taking up numerous defensive positions around the rocks, using the boulders as cover against your attacks. They then begin to open up with their rifles, peppering your position with a hail of slugs. This hail of bullets rains down onto the slope of the rocky peak that you guys had crested to gain your vantage point, and is woefully ineffective, missing all of you by miles. These Kroot are very clearly just kind of blind firing weight of fire on you. Then the hordes in the overlook both begin moving towards the rocks. Both of the Kroot hordes begin sprinting towards the rocks, but they are nowhere near as fast as their dogs. Garthiel.
Garthiel would like to pet some doggos with his power sword. As Garthiel, seeing this horde of beasts beneath him, it flashes back to his beast hunting days on his home world as he dives down.
I just flashbacks to him kicking a dog, like punting it.
As Garthiel charges the Kroot hounds. It's going to scream, although that won't really do much, but it's going to scream as tough as lungs in a war cry as he just shouts, "Die, foul beasts!" before slamming into them. As Garthiel crashes down, power sword swinging, just see blood and a blue flare just strike from the center of the crowd as Garthiel engages.
Now the Krootoxes once again begin their advance. So, the Krootoxes lumbering forward at speed, bellowing their guttural, earthy war cries. Their riders are once again going to take aim at their targets and open fire. The first aiming for Dima, the second aiming for Constantinos, and the third still aiming at Barbas. The heavy Kroot guns mounted to the back of the Krootoxes open up, their shots slamming into the rock around you, throwing up chips, but all the shots miss. Salah. So Salah steps forward and basically quickly sends off a stream of Astartes battle cant, instructing you all for a full squad advance and the optimal paths to use in this terrain so that you may advance towards the enemy as quickly as possible. Everyone may now benefit from the squad advance, squad mode ability.
Wow, Salah, when did you become so knowledgeable?
All this communicated purely in Astartes battle cant? Wow.
Barbers.
So, having just been shot almost in the chest and watching Squad Lead take a shot to the brain from him, he is pivoting on the spot, which at this range is kind of just turning to the right a minute amount. His little tracking laser immediately settles on the head of the centermost Krootox. He focuses for a split second to run those extra calculations and just lets a lovely little beam fly once again, illuminating the landscape below, hues of various red.
The beam strikes the Krootox square in the face, full frontal, and the Krootox continues advancing forward completely undeterred, blood streaming from its now blackened and scarred face, but it seems to rush on, pretty much uncaring of the blast that just struck it.
Muttering to himself something about, it's something to the extent of, tough bastard.
Dima.
And in reaction to Dima doing his thing, I'm going to shoot the rider with my las cannon.
And I know you think it's your turn, but it's actually my turn again.
You don't get to do anything, 'cause I said so. So, realizing that the Krootoxes are quite tough and wanting to be a bit more sparing with his las cannon rounds, considering he didn't take that many mags, he simply, it's the logical thought process of, well, maybe the mount is quite tough, but what about the rider? He has this kind of the curls of a fake grin as he thinks that to himself, re-aims his shot, and just another red beam illuminates the battlefield as a Kroot rider is snuffed out rather spectacularly.
Dima, seeing the dogs pouring over the hill, will use his great intellect, as opposed to shooting the horde next to Garfield, catching him in the crossfire, will shoot what he believes is the source of the dogs by sending his smite through the floor out to where he believes they're coming from, resounding in a sort of green explosion, cresting the hill from the other's perspective. Dima will prepare himself for the oncoming horde that he is now rattled, and he will cast Heat of the Furnace on himself, engulfing his entire body in this luminous green flame. And we're going to, for convenience sake, say he is 5 meters away from Garfield.
August is just going to be cresting the peak, sliding down towards another, maybe a ridge on this peak. As he goes, tapping Barbus on the pauldron, saying,
Don't get shot, brother.
and yeah, he's going to light the jet jump pack for this, just to get a little bit further.
I will say, as you tap Barbus and say that, you don't see it properly, but it's almost for a second, he kind of looks down at you like, what'd you just say to me? That kind of attitude. It's like a flash of it before he focuses back on his aim.
August vaults from the peak, Afterburners roaring as he comes in. His axe swings around in an arc as he cuts apart several of the Kroot hounds.
The horde of Kroot hounds descends upon you, circling you all, as you are all cut off from each other as the press of dogs gets in the way of your combat maneuvers. Garfield, in particular, is descended upon by numerous dogs, one or two of which manage to bury their sharp beaks into his stomach. Meanwhile, Dima, you're mostly keeping them at bay, but one or two just kind of get their jaws around your arm and chomp down, cracking your ceramite and occasionally piercing your soft armor. Meanwhile, August, you're managing to keep the horde at bay, as most of them seem to be focused on Garfield and Dima. Konstantinos.
So Konstantinos, seeing his team get absolutely mauled by this pack of dogs, is going to slow down. Mostly, he's no longer in that sprint that he was, but he's going to more tactfully charge, ready up his Astartes combat knife, and just start running into the closest one that he just can get his knife into, and just hack and slash as much as he can.
Rushing in with the knife, hacking and slashing away, you manage to kill a paltry few hounds with the combat knife, however you are now amongst them. And as your turn ends, you can use your reaction and now attack with your servo arm.
As one kind of turns to react to me joining the fray and jumps at me, my side kind of turned to it, the servo arm goes and tries to catch it,
Your servo arm kills the Kroot hound that leapt at you, but has no real effect on the horde as a whole. The Kroot warrior bands activate. The ones in cover are going to once again aim and open fire on the nearest Astartes targets, who are now locked in combat with their hounds. Meanwhile, the other Kroot warbands are going to run forward into the rocks. The Kroot hiding in the rocks take advantage of the fact that you are now pinned down by their hunting dogs to open up with another hail of rifle fire, the shots withering around you, only managing to catch August in the right arm where they draw a mere droplet of blood. Garfield.
Garthiel, having just been decked by a dog, flies into a rage as he uses his jump pack to just plough through a multitude of Kroot hounds, swinging his power sword as he goes, like a wild blender, and with a fury of power sword and chainsword attack, he slices through the dogs, putting the fear of the Emperor inside them, having them flee from the battle.
Darla, seeing incoming danger, reactively moves forward, taking cover behind some rocks. In Astartes battle camp, he signals for August to link up so that your helmet arrays can be properly interfaced, and he is able to direct Garthiel into cover. So, with the whole squad now in cover, apart from Konstantinos, who was too busy killing a dog with his servo arm to get his head down,
I am the cover.
the Krutoxes advance once more. Two of them seeing the very clear and available target within much better range than the strange, red light origin that they've been targeting at before. Seeing this target of opportunity, they are going to open up with their Kroot guns on Konstantinos. The Krutox is seeing the target of opportunity open up with their Kroot guns. One misses entirely their two giant slugs hammering into the rocks around you, Konstantinos. However, the second clips you in your right arm, your weak arm, your flesh arm, and it staggers you as it punctures a large, gaping wound in the bone, exposing the bone. You hold yourself firm, gritting your teeth and summing up the strength of the Emperor inside you. Your Astartes healing, stemming the blood flow as you refocus and re-enter the fray, narrowly holding off being critically wounded. So Sala, on his turn, seeing his squad mates being heavily pinned down by these mighty xenos beasts, he is going to activate Burst of Speed, summoning up the strength and summoning up the winds of the desert, the agility of his chapter. He is going to charge forward, sprinting full out. Sasala, using his immense speed and agility of his chapter, has managed to get to in front of all of you and hunkering down in the rocks just outside the range of the Kroot horde. Barbas.
Those of you who are watching Barbas, for whatever reason, will notice that his already quite sturdy pose gets even sturdier as he locks into a defensive position. Some might say a stoically defensive position, as he enacts a stoic defense for 6 temporary wounds. So noticing that his las cannon has run dry, instead of spending the time to reload it and waste precious seconds and precious las rounds, he simply puts it down with the trained efficiency of a well-oiled machine, and hefts his heavy bolt into place at the approaching Kroot horde, which is so incredibly rudely damaged the Tech Marine, and lets loose a salvo of bolt rounds, taking with him 18 Kroot, which are blown apart by the heavy bolter's explosive detonations, once again lighting up the dark landscape in a cascade of little orange flashes.
So Dima, post-Kroot houndening, will get a running start, sort of do somewhat of a jump, slide down on his heels into cover, crouched, ready for what's next.
August.
August is skirting around the rocks, moving around as gunfire goes all overhead. And he sidles up next to Garthiel, having seen his life signs rapidly decreasing, and prepares his Narthesium and says,
Hold still, brother. I know it can be hard for you.
Quiet down, cousin. Patch me up so I may slaughter the xenos more. I'll hold out a leg which has been thoroughly mauled.
Whilst you're doing your Medicaid, you want to have a sneaky examination of him.
You know what? Yeah, this is the perfect opportunity. Yeah, he's looking underneath the armor with his helmet, kind of scanning him, looking for any weird abnormalities.
As you're, like, scanning over Garthiel, it's the first time you've really decided, I'm going to do a full proper scan on you, and I'm going to examine your gene seed in multi-spectrum phase. And basically looking and properly examining Garthiel's gene seed is a horrific thing. It is warped and twisted. It doesn't quite look how a normal progenoid gland would. It looks kind of malformed, and in nearly every spectrum you are examining this, in thermals, in radiation, its color, its sort of everything it emits is slightly wrong. It's just a bit gross and unnerving to look at, and just looking at it gives you this creepy chill down your spine.
I notice August doing this to me. As you're scanning through with your helmet, Garthiel feels your piercing gaze as my hand reaches out and just grabs your helm. What are you doing, cousin?
I'm assessing the damage.
You are doing more than that. Do not pry further.
If it is a concern to your well-being, it is a concern to the squad.
Garthiel has his hand on his helm, throws it away. Focus on the wound, cousin.
Constantinos, what are you doing? I assume you're going to perform a Medicare check on yourself and then go hunker and cover.
Yeah, as I'm just gonna slab some repair concrete on the wound, and then as my turn ends, I'm going to reaction move to some cover. Brothers, heavy fire taken. Situation controlled.
As Dima has moved ahead of the group to assess and engage with the Kroot, he hears a bellowing, chittering war cry as suddenly, with alarming speed, the Kroot all around him, who were in their camouflaged and entrenched positions in the rocks, suddenly rush him, leaping with astounding speed and acrobatics off the rocks and around him. Suddenly, Dima finds himself surrounded by a wall of bladed fighting staffs.
This is fine. I'm still on fire.
The Kroot horde comes in, chittering and yelling their war cry echoing off around the sharp, jagged boulders. Leaping at you in pairs, they swing at you with their bladed staffs. You're managing to hold them back one at a time, occasionally cutting one down, but one of them manages to land a mighty blow into your right leg, right in the back of your knee, and then pull away, your blood spattering across the dusty floor. You stagger for a moment as another warrior just suddenly hits you full in the chest with a rush. Another warrior flings a bolas around you, and for a moment you think you're about to be brought down under their nets and traps, but you manage to surge up with strength and cast off their attempts to pin you and trap you. And all around you, the Kroot are gnashing their beaks. Garthiel, you have only one course of action because you have Rage.
Wah! I see my cousin Dima in perilous foe and think to myself, what a weak Astartes. Let us show it how a real Astartes does it. As Garthiel, just as August finishes up patching Garthiel up, leaps up with his jump pack, searing the ground with a mighty charge into the Kroot horde. So Garthiel will charge in, power sword active, ready to slice and dice. As Garthiel bears down on them, the full might of his jump pack at bay, he smashes into the ground right near Dima as the explosion just sears and burns away just a mass of Kroot. As their blood and sinew just splatter across the ground. Before once the smoke settles, his power sword spikes out, stabbing and slashing through many, many more.
The Krutox is rushing forward again, open back up on Barbas, most of their shots going wide. One, however, striking the rock and improved plating right where your chest would be in your fortified position, but failing to even go through the ceramite slab Constantinos installed there for additional cover. Sala. So Sala will, drawing Ignis Renatus off his back, go, "Brothers, fall back and I will cover your retreat." And then he's going to charge into the Kroot horde. Sala, charging up behind Dima, will just bow, "Give me a distraction, brother!" to Dima.
As you wish. And Dima will just sort of flare up even more with his sort of fire to catch their attention.
Sala then comes in from essentially behind Dima, using Dima essentially acting as a flashbang to slide in past him and essentially do a big sweeping strike with Ignis Renatus, and then following it through with another flowing strike and breaking the Kroot horde in front of him, the survivors fleeing. And then Sala will go, "Brothers, withdraw to cover, away from the incoming enemy."
So, watching his teammates kind of getting harassed by the Kroot in the front line, he sees kind of, because, you know, he's got his autosense goggles, he can see everything that's going on. Nothing can evade his eyesight. He sees a bunch of the Kroot in the second horde kind of shuffling behind rocks, and is able to deduce with his immense tactical acumen, which he has, by the way, that they are about to begin a push to reinforce their fellow Kroot. So he waits until the exact moment they all hop out from behind their rocks to unleash just a horizontal sweep with his heavy bolter that blows apart the first 9 that jump the rocks, like sending bits of them flying back over onto their comrades. And the poor Kroot just can't handle it and turn tail.
So with their leader dead and the majority of their forces having just quickly broken and ran a large number, the other Kroot warband is basically looking to flee as well, as are the other Krootoxes. "Brothers, we should leave the foe behind and rejoin the guard offensive."
Squad lead, will you flee from the fleeing xenos? Are you as weak as them?
Over the Vox, now tending to his weapons and most notably reloading his las cannon, just getting that out of the way. Barbus will respond, "Garthiel, contain yourself. We have wounds to tend to and an offensive to join. Those enemies will destroy themselves.
The death will not be by my hands, cousin."
The Emperor will see to it they are destroyed. It is not our mission anymore."
So while this argument's happening, August is patching up Dima, and he chips in.
As much as I hate to agree with Garthiel on this, I do think it pertinent to follow them. Where they go could give us a great deal of information, and additionally, it may serve the guard forces if they're caught unawares by rampaging Krootox, and it might turn out poorly for them.
While I am aware of such things, Brother August, it is not our mission parameters. Our mission parameters were to kill the Trail Shaper, and we have achieved this.
So your conversation is interrupted by the bellowing guttural screams of the Krootox whose rider was slain by Barbus's las cannon, who has not joined the retreating Kroot, but in fact has just rushed pell-mell towards you through the rocks, whilst you were conversing, covering the distance in record time for such a big beast. And Sala will just point towards the creature and go, "Garthiel, kill that annoying thing."
Gartiel, with a smile on his face and bloodlust in his eyes, rushes towards the Krootox, something twice his size, as he bares his chainsaw, stabbing it deep into the Krootox's chest, blood and gore splattering everywhere, as the chains rip and tear.
The Krootox howls in pain, being heavily wounded by the attack, and then brings its a great big meaty fists down on your head. So the beast, enraged by your blow, raises its fists up, bringing them down on you. You nimbly parry one, but the other cracks down onto your left arm, its weird bony abrasions catching you in the soft armor and drawing blood.
Adema, looking at Garfield, thinking, God, what a pathetic excuse for a Marine. We'll hop in.
I see the other Kroot progressively getting away. Is that because we're missing something here, or is that just you representing how far they are away in case we change our mind?
Representing, because you guys are dealing with this instead, and you know.
August will begin tailing them.
Sala will then say, "August, leave them. They're no longer a threat. We can communicate their position to Guard Command. Constantinos, establish a relay. You got the comms before?"
On it.
At least let me track their heading.
Very well.
Maybe half a second after the Krutox finishes his attack, he'd sort of probably move his arm and see Dima standing there where he wasn't before. Axe, one hand above, clean chop down, probably right into the gap between his neck and his shoulder. And probably lighting him, you hear like a singe, smell some burning flesh from his fire-wreathed axe as he sort of pulls it out and deignites himself.
Garthiel's head snaps towards Dima. You dare! And starts just like walking towards him in furious steps.
I dare. I am simply returning the favor from earlier, brother.
And let me return it to you! As I'll just punch him straight in the face.
Over the Vox, seeing again, because there's nothing Barbas can't see in this little gull, what's happening. Barbas going to say,
Contain yourself, Garthiel. You would dare raise hands against one of your brothers?
Dima will just flick his hand up. Very, very gently, because it was restrained psychic power to catch his hand in time.
You even use your witch powers to mask your weakness.
Oh, he hit me with the witch word again. Oh, he hit me with the witch again. Oh, if this is the same one, then I'm going to punch him back.
As the pair of you begin to brawl, Dima now throwing a counter punch to Garthiel after Garthiel threw the witch slur at him. Sala is going to sprint in, push you both apart, and shout, Brothers, control yourself!
Yes, squad lead. Teach this failure not to steal others' glory.
Silence, Garthiel! Both of you will hold your tongue until instructed otherwise. We will resolve this back on the ship. You are to maintain silence apart from battle communications until ordered otherwise. Do I make myself clear, or do I have to call the watch captain?
Crystal.
Yes, squad lead.
August, get back here. We're leaving. Constantinos, call extraction.
Aye, squad lead. I'll do so.
Garthiel, listening to his squad lead as the perfect paragon of order he is, goes over to the dead husk of the Krutox and thoroughly kicks it.
Just repeatedly, or just once?
Just once, really hard.
Make sure your nose doesn't hit your microphone there, Ed, from the massive fucking lie you just told. What's Dima doing?
Dima will, acceptingly, his rage passing over him, or sort of leaving him, to just sort of agree to chill out and put his hands down. Maybe cross them even.
What is the rest of the squad doing? I'm trying to get a visual, right? I'm trying to have an understanding of what I'm looking at.
Currently, standing within the broken rocks, Garthiel and Dima established. Constantinos is stood back in cover, healing himself. Barbas is on top of the mountain, essentially, like 600 meters away.
Yeah.
Just on overwatch with his last cannon and heavy bolter. August is vibing to your leftwards.
Scouting the retreating Kroot forces.
No, Constantinos is setting up the communications relay. Remember?
Right, yes, no, you're contacting Gracchus. Yeah.
And Barbas is just reloading rather than Overwatch.
Okay, so Sala is going to remove his helmet and walk over to his good friend, Brother August.
August is kind of skirting around the crests of the hill as the Kroot are making their way away. Notices you approaching and kind of weans off the thrust on his jump pack, coming to rest next to you.
As Brother August sort of turns around and sees Sala, Brother August sees Sala with his sort of head, not quite in his hands, but with his sort of fingers pinched around the bridge of his nose, with his eyes sort of clenched shut, looking somewhat distressed.
Can I assist you, squad lead? This has been testing, I understand.
Brother August, this squad, I worry for it. I doubt my leadership, in all honesty. I know that it's very easy for us to point our finger at Garthiel and play the blame game. I wonder if I'm truly at fault.
Brother, there is little you can do about an individual like that. I know I have my own misgivings for him, but what is one to do? He's unruly, undisciplined, everything the rest of us are not. Somebody needs to bring him into the fold.
My point, brother, is I don't think it's just Garthiel. It is very easy to look at Garthiel and see faults. In fact, if I'm being entirely honest with you, brother, I'm not convinced we didn't just see an act of heresy. However, last mission, Dima and Barbas were at each other's throats. I only tell you this because, in truth, you're the only person on this squad I feel like reminds me of my brothers at home. You're the only one who understands humanity. The rest of these brothers, they're simply... they're whelps! They're children! Infantile bickering! Maybe my criticisms are little more than a projection.
And Salah's gonna just sort of casually pull out Ignis Renatus and just kind of hold it and just sort of look at it and take its visual in.
I really don't know if I'm worthy of this, brother. I really don't.
August nods, takes a look around. Quickly, Bart, I'd like to roll an awareness just to make sure there's nobody watching us at this minute besides the squad.
No one has said they're going to, and there is no enemies nearby.
So yeah, August will actually take his helmet off once he's assured himself that there are no enemies, ready to blow his brains out. Yeah, so he's gonna plant his helmet briefly on his belt, held loosely in one hand.
Brother Salah, the long vigil asks a lot of us. You are not my first squad, and what little I did learn on my first squad, it was conflicting. There is no right way to lead. One cannot lead everyone, but in this case...
He pauses for a moment. He's genuinely kind of looking into himself and considering this quite deeply.
I shouldn't be advising you, brother. I'm an apothecary. In truth, we should go to our chaplain.
I don't know if you've noticed, brother, but I have spent every opportunity, every single moment possible, every single second available to me in the Reclusium, in prayer or in conversation with all of the hope I can find there. I don't think the chaplain's gonna help. I think the watch captain erred in granting me this blade, this honor.
With that, a large crackle emits over the Vox as Constantinus, you've established Vox connection with the Lance of Penance. And immediately over the Vox, you hear the sounds of battle, gunfire, whirring machinery. Squad Ignis, this is Watch Captain Varvrus. Coming in. Do you read me, Squad Ignis? Mission complete. Hey, Varvrus here, coming at you from the void once again. Sorry about the shorter episode today, Mission 2 didn't quite have enough material for another full hour. All the same, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share your favourite moment from this episode in the comments, or any feedback you might have. We really appreciate it. As always, a massive thank you to the patrons. No new patrons this week, so extra thanks to the existing patrons for your continued support. You really are the lifeblood of this channel. Becoming a patron really helps us out, and you get access to the full uncut recordings of our actual play. If you'd like to support the channel but can't afford to donate monthly, I have a Ko-fi for one-off donations. Don't worry if you can't afford to support at all. Watching, sharing, and being a part of the community is a big help too. Don't forget to join our Discord, as we have a community campaign starting there, so you too can play Deathwatch, and don't worry, new players are more than welcome. Links to everything I just mentioned is down in the description below, and until next time, suffer not the alien to live.